This is NDTV, and you're watching Classics.
Good evening and welcome to the 9 o'clock news. I'm Sonia Singh. Let's look at issues firstly like the population growth. Was this about paying bribes? The Prime Minister flies to Assam for his Rajya Sabha nomination. The Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court has reacted sharply to the NDTV expose in the BMW case. Why exactly is the Sena now targeting Shah Rukh Khan after targeting other icons like Sachin Tendulkar and Mukesh Ambani? We tend to dismiss policies which benefit the poorest of the poor as saying that these are for vote. The withdrawal of the Pakistani-sponsored resolution in Geneva has dealt a serious blow to militants in the valley. However, until the people of Kashmir can return to life of full normalcy, any optimism here is a shade premature. This is Sonia Varma in Srinagar for The World This Week. Liberalization seems to have finally reached the Indian media with the reported decision to allow the entry of foreign publications into the country. However, opposition is fierce as some feel this will compromise the integrity of the country, while others fear Indian newspapers will be unable to withstand the competition. But with the rapid opening up of the Indian economy, the liberalization of this sector too seems likely to happen sooner rather than later. Cricketing star Sachin Tendulkar finally found his perfect match. 27-year-old Dr. Anjali Mehta. The couple were married today in a simple ceremony at Bombay's Nehru Centre. So India's boy wonder is finally entering into the longest and hopefully the happiest innings of his career. Horse racing is one of the island's biggest growth industries, and it's a real addiction. Crowds of up to 80,000 people pack the two race courses during racing season. All the races are transmitted live, and it is among the top 3 most watched TV programs in Hong Kong. But behind all the fun, it's serious business, with the Jockey Club being the second largest employer of people in Hong Kong after the government. Horses, lambada and money all add up to make a day at the races in Hong Kong an unforgettable experience. And with a turnover totaling billions of dollars, this is one national pastime residents of Hong Kong are betting will survive 1997. Vidya Bhandari's victory has effectively ended all hopes of Bhattarai toppling Prime Minister Koirala from his post. More importantly, however, it proves that despite its dismal performance in the rest of the world, communism in Nepal is still alive and kicking. This is Milan. It's now being called the city of kickbacks. And fittingly it is here that a simple magistrate, Antonio Di Pietro, opened the Pandora's box of corruption, which is shaking the very roots of Italy's political and social system. What began with the trial of a small-time politician has unfolded into a large network of political corruption. Some of the biggest and best-known names in Italy have been implicated. This is where Italy's latest heroes are fighting their battles. While they fight in court, the people are battling in the streets. And for the first time since the fall of fascism, there is a feeling here that the people are finally calling the shots. And they have already won their first victory. General elections are scheduled soon. And if Italy succeeds in ushering in a clean and efficient government, it will be a message against corruption, which many other parts of the world would do well to follow. For many Indians, a ticket to the Gulf is a ticket to the better life, a guarantee of easy riches and quick prosperity. However, for the 11 Indians accused in the famous Sharjah blasphemy case in 1992, the dream has turned into a nightmare. And the latest twist to the drama is the retrial of the case, scheduled for May 1st. It all began when a group of Malayali workers decided to stage a well-known play, Shavanthini Urumbugal, or the ants that feed upon the corpses, at the Indian Association Hall in Sharjah. This is the stage where the infamous play was enacted. Though some argue that the strict laws in the UAE are responsible for the low crime rate here, others argue that the convicted had no blasphemous intentions. Whatever the case may be, a mere evening's folly may have cost the convicted much more than what they bargained for. Copyright laws all around the world may be getting stricter than ever, but for Hong Kong's night market, it's business as usual. Designer clothing, bags, electronics, everything's available and most importantly at the right price. Sonia Varma in Hong Kong for the World This Week. First, our top story, the cabinet met tonight and put the seal on privatizing two of India's biggest public sector oil companies.
Statements like this just add to a growing tension. Varma Sen's new film which you're working on.
Do you think this is an ideal World Cup winning team? Well, Vivek, that's all. State police say they found a suitcase full of guns and jewellery in Uttar Pradesh MLA Raja Bhaiya's house in Pratapgarh. One allegation is always there in the recent years has been the increasing trend of journalists getting the Padma awards, and of course one allegation is always then that if you write in favour of the government, you're then automatically on the list or a possible appointee for a possible winner of a Padma award. Do you think that criticism is justified?
You see, politics is built into the awards because after all the awards reflect the preferences and prejudices of the government of the day.
When you see these lists which seem to be getting larger and larger by the years, how much of the credibility of these awards remain when it seems to extend to such a large group?
Well, I think that's a very important question. I think they should be selective. Now, in any such list, for example, the list that I saw today and you saw today, there are some outstanding choices.
This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV 24/7.
We'll have all those news stories in the next 1 hour, but let's just start with our focus on the impact of the BMW expose. The Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court has reacted sharply to the NDTV expose in the BMW case. In 1999, 6 people were killed, allegedly by a BMW car driven by businessman Sanjeev Nanda. Since then, the case has had its days and days and days in court. But yesterday, NDTV broadcast a sting operation pointing to what seems to be an apparent collusion between the prosecution, the defence and possibly even a key witness. For the last months, the story of what happened to a young girl, Arushi, is what the whole nation has watched. They've shared in the grief, the bewilderment and the unhappiness when they saw first a father being arrested and then released. And today it seems that the case has virtually collapsed. Joining me now is two people for whom this is a personal tragedy. This is their story, the story of their daughter. Joining me now is Rajesh and Nupur Talwar. Dr. Rajesh Talwar, this is the first time you've spoken since that tragic event, the loss of your daughter. What has made you speak out today?
Well, you know, till today we thought the case was going in the right direction. We thought we would be getting a charge sheet. We thought the culprits who did this kind of thing would be arrested. But now we've suddenly, you know, we've been in a situation in which we don't know whether the charge sheet is going to come through.
Let me ask you, sir, you're executive president of the Shiv Sena. The film industry feels especially vulnerable. This is a big release coming up next week. What will actually happen to the release of My Name is Khan now? Well, just a shrug, that perhaps speaks more than words, but thank you very much, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray, for speaking to us on Verdict Tonight. Thank you. The show where the day's biggest newsmakers share their insight.
There should be a Ram temple on the site of Ram Janambhoomi.
Pleading before BJP and Congress would have given us a strong Lokpal bill, I am not convinced anymore.
We don't manufacture controversies, we report them.
कई बार ये तकलीफ होती है कि मजाक का विषय बन जाती पार्टी की, ये प्रधानमंत्री की, वो प्रधानमंत्री.
Fair, balanced and a genuine debate.
Once they had invited Mr. Modi, they should have given him a hearing, and I think they should have challenged him.
We should hang our heads in shame.
On India Decides, you don't have to shout to be heard. The Prime Minister flies to Assam for his Rajya Sabha nomination. That's amongst our top headlines tonight. Good evening, I'm Sonia Singh. The Prime Minister files his nomination. He's greeted there by political activists dressed as him, protesting the lack of development in Assam. The hanging of the most high-profile terrorist in an Indian jail, the first Pakistani to be hung on an Indian soil in a top-secret Operation X. The President signed it on November the 5th, that's less than 3 weeks. President Pranab Mukherjee cleared it in record time. and then a final signature by Mr. Shinde on the 7th of November set the process rolling. British Prime Minister David Cameron said today the UK will never give in to terror or terrorism. This is as it was confirmed today that the two men who beheaded a soldier last night in a busy district of London are British citizens of Nigerian descent. Media reports also said today that both the men had featured in several investigations by security forces in recent years, one even intercepted last year while leaving the country. But there had been no suspicion that they were planning this attack. The big story tonight, the arrest of one of Italy's top CEOs of defence firm Finmeccanica for allegedly paying bribes to India in the 4,000 crore, the nearly 4,000 crore VVIP helicopter deal. Why did the government first give us a clean chit and now order a CBI probe? And they'll bring up this whole issue of corruption in purchases. Their Chief Marshal makes the point this is not a defence purchase in the literal sense, but they will bring up this point again and why the system seem to be failing. The new army chief talk about forget about past baggage, I have to restore the morale of the troops.
I think the earlier the spin masters stop all such things, the better it would be for the organization.
Sahara Shree's money comes from Mulayam Singh Yadav and the Samajwadi Party.
If they find anything of that sort, they can hang.
You won't be a puppet of anyone.
I have never been controlled by anyone in my life.
Why have you stayed away from marriage so far?
No, I've not stayed away from marriage. I've just come very close to it.
Good evening and welcome to Your Call. It's the one show on Indian television where you, the viewer, have an opportunity to ask your question directly to our guest of the week.
Sonia, I have one more question. We have all been offered government jobs, and as far as that is concerned, the Maharashtra government has not been very cooperative, and neither has the Maharashtra Public Service Commission. I am a graduate from London. I have been running around to government offices for the past 5 months. I have nothing concrete. At every stage, am I supposed to face injustice in the country for which my father has laid down his life?
What did you graduate in?
I have done my graduation in Human Resource Management from University of Westminster, London.
What kind of a job are you looking for in the government?
I am looking for the position of Assistant Sales Tax Commissioner, and a GR has been issued for the same.
Now let me talk to the Chief Minister. I'll do that today and I'll get back to you say by, I'm afraid I won't be here for a few days early next week. But we'll get back to you by the end of next week.
That's wonderful. Divya. I hope it works out. You are somebody who's been considered a huge threat by both the Congress and the BJP.
Unless we clean up the system from inside, nothing will happen.
Your party has proposed Hindu nationalism and the savior is perhaps Narendra Modi.
At one time, Vishwa Hindu Parishad, we had also said that Jaswant Singh is not a Hindu.
There seems to be a belief that secularism has come to mean for some parties that you appease one group versus the other.
India is not and must not and shall not be a Hindu Pakistan.
We tend to dismiss policies which benefit the poorest of the poor as saying that these are for vote.
One way of looking at it, who are the beneficiaries?
The NDTV Dialogues with Sonia Singh. You don't have to shout to be heard.